Hello and welcome to Everything E.M, your YouTube channel for Cambridge Environmental Management. In these content videos, we work through the syllabus step by step so that we cover everything you need to know without wasting valuable time. Here we go. In the previous lesson, we looked at how rocks, ores and minerals are extracted from the earth and the impacts this can have. In this lesson, we're looking at how these resources can be managed more sustainably. Mineral resources take millions of years to form. Once we use them, they cannot simply be replaced quickly. That means that rocks, ores, and minerals are finite resources. Sustainable management is about using them carefully so that people today can meet their needs, but we also want future generations not to be left without resources they might need. You can find the latest syllabus document on the Cambridge International website. I've put the link in the description for you, but you can also pause the video here to see what we'll be covering today. You have to be able to give accurate definitions for finite resources and sustainability. So let's look at them a little bit closer. A finite resource is a natural resource that is used up at a faster rate than it is replaced. This means the resource has a limited supply. If we keep extracting and using it faster than it can form naturally, it will eventually run out and it'll become much harder and more expensive to obtain. Many metal ores and mineral resources are finite because they form over geological time, often over millions of years. Examples of this include copper ore, iron ore, gold, diamonds, limestone used for cement, and sand used in construction. Sustainable management of the resources means that we are ensuring that the needs of the present are met without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their needs. Without sustainable management, finite mineral resources may run out, more land will be mined, ecosystems will be damaged, and future generations may face severe shortages and high costs. Sustainable management is not just about protecting nature. It also involves the economy and society. The environment matters because mining can damage habitats, pollute the land and water, and use large amounts of energy. The economy matters because rocks, ores and minerals are needed for construction, for manufacturing, for jobs, trades and national income. And society matters because people need resources for housing, transport, electricity, technology and services. And communities can also be affected by pollution, by unsafe mining, loss of land or job losses. A strategy is more sustainable when it balances all three. It protects the environment, it remains economically realistic, and it benefits the people. And everything we look at through the whole of this syllabus is about making decisions which balances those three: the economy, society, and the environment. The syllabus gives us 7 strategies for sustainable management. We'll start with the first 4. Reduce and reuse. Reduce means using fewer raw materials in the first place. A company might design a building using less steel or concrete while still making it strong and safe. Or a person could buy fewer products, repair items instead of replacing them, or avoid unnecessary packaging. Then reuse. Reuse means using a material again instead of throwing it away, such as metal parts, glass bottles, bricks, timber. Construction rubble can sometimes be reused. For instance, crushed concrete can be used as a base for roads or for building projects. Reducing and reusing lower the demand for newly mined resources. If less new material is needed, less mining is needed, which reduces habitat loss, pollution, waste, and energy use. Recycling means processing used materials so that they can be made into new products. Recycling incorporates accessibility, ease, and education. Accessibility means that there are enough recycling facilities available. People are more likely to recycle if there are collection points or if recycling centers and bins are nearby. Ease means recycling must be simple. If people have to travel far, sort too many materials, or pay too much, fewer people will do it. And education means that people need to understand what can be recycled, how to separate, and why it matters. Recycling reduces the need to extract new raw materials, and it often uses less energy than extracting and processing ore, and it reduces the amount of waste sent to landfill. A clear example is aluminium. Recycling aluminium uses much less energy than producing new aluminium from ore, so it saves both resources and electricity. Increased efficiency of extraction, well, that's exactly what it says. We want to be getting more useful material from the same amount of rock. Mining companies can use improved machinery, better data analysis, improved separation methods, and more precise extraction techniques. They can also reprocess the old mine waste to recover minerals that were missed in the past. If more useful material is recovered from each ton of rock, then less rock has to be mined overall. This reduces waste, lowers energy use, and can reduce environmental damage significantly. Avoiding resource depletion happens when a resource is mined at a slower rate so that we avoid the depletion. So for instance, if we are setting extraction limits, we are recycling materials, we are using alternatives, we're improving the efficiency, and we're planning carefully, we can prevent those resources from being depleted. The aim is not always to stop using the resource completely. The aim is to reduce waste and use the resource carefully so that it lasts longer and causes less damage. The next 3 strategies involve governments, rules and monitoring, and finding substitute materials. Let's look at legislation. Legislation means laws passed by governments. Governments can make laws to control how resources are extracted and used. For example, mining companies may be required to complete an environmental impact assessment before mining begins, to limit pollution and manage waste safely, to restore the land after mining, and to recycle certain materials. Legislation helps because it makes responsible behavior a legal requirement, not just a choice. Enforcement means making sure that the laws are actually followed. Legislation is the law, but enforcement is checking that people are obeying the law. Enforcement can include inspections, monitoring pollution levels, checking restoration plans, issuing fines, removing licenses, or stopping illegal mining. Laws do not protect the environment if they are ignored. Enforcement is what makes the legislation effective. Laws only work if they are properly enforced, and governments or inspectors need to check that companies are actually following those environmental rules. Use of alternative materials. This is where we try and find substitute materials that can replace the mined rock, ores, and minerals. Recycled plastic, for instance, can be used to create benches or decking instead of using new timber or metal. Recycled concrete can replace newly quarried stone in some construction projects. Bamboo, ceramics, composites or bioplastics can also replace some traditional materials in specific uses. Alternative materials reduce the demand for newly mined resources. This will then reduce the mining, which will save energy and protect habitats. However, alternatives do not always work as well, and they might be more expensive, less durable, less available, or unsuitable for certain uses. In the exams, you will see questions where you have to discuss a point. This means you need to look at both sides. Sustainable management strategies have benefits, but they also have limitations. We can group these into environmental, economic, and social benefits and limitations. Let's look at environmental benefits. Sustainable management can reduce the need for new mining. This will protect habitats, reduce the loss of biodiversity, and decrease air, land, and water pollution. Recycling and reuse also reduce waste sent to the landfill and will often use less energy than extracting new materials. Economic benefits. Sustainable management can reduce the cost in the long term. For example, recycling and reuse may reduce spending on raw materials and energy, and efficient extraction can improve profitability because you get more useful material from the same amount of rock. New industries can also create jobs in recycling or environmental monitoring or land rehabilitation, for instance. Social benefits. Sustainable management can improve the quality of life. Less pollution means fewer health risks. Restored land can also become parks or lakes or recreation areas, nature reserves. Education can also encourage more responsible behavior. Let's look at the limitations. Recycling can be difficult because not all materials are easy to separate, collect, or process. Not all materials will be recycled because facilities may be unavailable. People may not be able to participate, or recycled materials may be contaminated or mixed. Sustainable methods could also be too expensive because new machinery, recycling plants, monitoring systems, and restoration work costs money. Some methods could be too slow. Changing public behavior, restoring land, and developing alternatives can take many years. Enforcement may be weak. If governments lack money, especially, inspectors, political will, or effective penalties can be very difficult to apply. Alternative materials may not always work as well because they may be less strong, less durable, more expensive, or not suitable for the same purpose. Demand may still increase because population growth, urbanization, and economic development mean that people need more buildings, more roads, electronics, and infrastructure. So remember in the exams, don't just say something like recycling is important. Rather say something like, recycling is important because it reduces the need for new mining, which protects habitats and saves energy, but it can be expensive and not all materials can be recycled efficiently. So I'm naming the strategy, I'm saying why it will be good, and I'm also giving a limitation. Let's finish by checking the two key definitions for this section. A finite resource is a natural resource that is used up at a faster rate than it is replaced. And sustainable management of resources is the use of strategies that ensure the needs of the present are met without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. If you'd like to have all the definitions of Chapter 1, you can download it from my website. And there we go, well done. You've now completed topic 1.3, the sustainable management of rocks, ores and minerals. You can find study notes, the worksheet and flashcards on my website, link below in the description. If you have any questions, ask below. And if not, I'll see you in the next lesson.